Okay, greetings everyone. Kale. Welcome to this power hour of Afro literacy. Again, in this focus, these series, the focus is to empower educators of any kind, parents, teachers, community members, anyone that is responsible for just enhancing literacy with young people. This is what this course is for. And so I'm super duper excited to bring 20 years of tried and truths to you all for the next generation. So our goal is joyful, peaceful, powerful curriculum. And just to give everyone some background knowledge, I call what I do Afro literacy because there are five components to make sure that exist in most of the plans. And so that's, of course, the root is African-centered or worldview. What are we doing traditionally all over the world that used to strengthen our children? Then the five sense student view. What are the students seeing now that need to be brought into the education so that we can connect that worldview to the African-centered worldview and to see how to solve our problems, right? Because things have changed. Our students need a lot of support. And so the third level is making sure they have that scholarly analysis and they understand advocacy, how to apply what they're learning from the worldview perspective, adding their five senses, and how do they advocate? How do they analyze based on what do I keep? What what may not be that good for me or my culture, my family, and then creativity. How do we put those things in a way that allows both sides of our brains to work, right? The creative and the logical side. And those are the things that I've found that has enhanced the learning that our scholars do. So again, I'm very excited to share these things with you, and I would love to have your feedback. In order to access this directly, and I will put this with the um recording as well, the recording information. You can always join me at nearpod.com, and then this is the code. But of course, I will copy the link and you will have this with the recording. And this lets you click and access is that everywhere that I'm going. And I think that's a very important component to being able to follow the lesson. So who am I? I am Kemi Abi. I have a PhD in curriculum development, a master's in interdisciplinary studies, which includes history, nonprofit management, and education. I'm certified in K-12, and I was one of the district's 2010 Reading Teacher of the Year. And that feat was not easy. I had six different literacy classes, and we absolutely excelled in different areas, including competitions against other schools. So they took the readers who had the most challenges and they put them in a class with me, and we became rock stars. So hence, this is the root of my Afro literacy pedagogy that I want to share these successes with you all. So now, if you are live, of course, chat check in. We always want to make sure we do this every time so we can get to know each other and intentionally build our community, right? If you are watching it post, share, send me a message. Let me know where you're checking in from, name, profession, um, the name of your business, because I always love to shout out our businesses. Age group that you're working with and literacy needs, right? We're talking about reading, writing, digital connection, all of those things, vocabulary. Let me know what your needs are, and I can put together informational sessions based on those needs. And so this monthly theme is all about reading the voices of our ancestors. So all of the things that's left with us through oral tradition and oral culture, right? Because it's really, really rich. So today we're going to talk about using folk tales and Black stories to analyze fictional reading. Okay, so what are the things that the creativity of our ancestors have taught us? And so that's a really, really exciting place to start to get. I've heard a lot of people say, particularly maybe not within the homeschool, in other areas that they don't read, they haven't found a good book. And so we want to make sure that we are increasing the love of reading because that's important. And so this is the handout that you all will have access to, kind of the quick, short takeaways. It has on the handout the agenda for today. So we've done the welcome and you've all told me who you were. We did a quick, brief intro to Afro-literacy, the components of Afro-literacy. I'm going to introduce you to the magnificent 7 strategies that can be used when people are reading. We're going to go over some arts-infused literacy projects. We're going to talk about, there's a handout on encouraging reading motivation. If you have, a scholar who's a little resistant. And there's also a handout on building a home reading culture. Then there'll be a Q&A at the end. And as well as, again, if you're watching this in the recording, always send me a message, send me a message, send me a message. And you can do it directly in the Canvas app or yayesacademy@gmail.com. Okay. And so you have snippets of the reading book that I have put together, and we're going to go over a little bit of that right now, just so you can get a sense of what is the background. I always say education is more enhanced when we understand the background of the things that we're, the why we're doing all of the things that we are doing. And so I have a book, a series. It's going to be a series based on vocabulary, reading fiction, reading nonfiction, and writing. So I have one collective book that has over 100 plus lesson plans, and then I will have individual books that will have the pedagogy of why we do the things that we do. All right. So this is book number 4, honoring the ancestors. And so really quickly, you have a snippet of this is that, when we are working with our children, we want to make sure that we change how they learn. We make it as natural as possible. And I have found that the folk tales make it as natural possible when you are reading fiction. Okay. And so it's a great connection, a great place for creativity, which is kind of challenging now with everything that YouTube's showing us what we need to see and giving us the images and having that association. But going back to just reading the books and folk tales, we still get to use our imagination. And so I want to bring an element of that back. Instead of everybody giving us the images we should have, I want to make space for scholars to create their own images. And so we are doing that, bringing back the creativity and using a folk tale to bring back the natural ways of learning so that it is like, in the voices of our ancestors. We learn from hearing a story, from hearing a proverb. And so, that's the naturalness. And we want to make sure that we are making learning as natural as possible because that makes it more enjoyable. And so some things for fiction reading, story mapping, what's happening, joining the boxes. Some students with autism might use PowerPoint presentations and mind map it that way to increase comprehension. We want to do different things to connect to the characters. How are they feeling? I use that a lot in my public school teaching to say, what would Imani do? We bet Imani's moon. Would Imani give up? And, to kind of get them the lesson, teach them lessons that way. The sensory learning, when we're connecting it to what we're doing, it brings it to life. And then inquiry based, let's find out what would happen if, and different things like that. And so those are all the ways that a book can just take us into so many different places, into so many different lessons. And so we don't have to have, a whole lot of curriculum books, with just worksheets. There's so many things that we can do repetitively with these folk tales and other Black stories, short Black stories, to help us just really connect learning and make it natural. Again, vocabulary building, these are some other things. Vocabulary building through cultural references. What are those words that's important to the family? Reflection journals, creative Afro literacy projects, which I'm going to share some with you all for different age levels. And then in this, we support lifelong learning. So this is the reading book that we have that goes into the pedagogy. And just to let you all know, here are some tried and trues. I know everyone has got their library, building up their library. These are some tried and trues, and I will actually give you all access to our digital database that will be broken up with lesson plans. So, of course, Anansi stories, they have them online, they have them in books. African American folklore, the Brer Rabbit tales. There's a Legend of John Henry, The People Could Fly. All of those books, and you see it's broken down: hope, freedom, heritage, resilience, all of those things. Um, all kinds of African American folklore. I've done some things with Mufara's Beautiful Daughters, The Talking Eggs, a Creole folk tale. And so you have Haitian folk tales. So this is a list of all of the books that you can use to bring what we're going to do to life. And I'm sure you have your own. I would love to start a discussion board where we can share these things and on top of what we have. So this is kind of all around the world books that you can have. Okay. So where we're going to go next is we're going to talk a little bit about this is the Magnificent Seven strategy that was introduced to me when I first became a reading teacher in my district. And so, mind you, I wasn't certified to do reading. They stuck me in the classroom and it just became this natural bond. And I figured out ways to just connect with the students and enhance their reading skills. So they said when you're reading, and this is pretty basic for reading level. What I've done, and I'll show you in a moment, is what I've done with this, and I've taken it to the Afro literacy level, and you will see the difference in that in a moment. And so what you have here is they say the seven things that you should be able to do is make connections, ask questions, visualize, infer, which is reading between the lines, determine important information, synthesize, take things from different places, and then monitor, have skills to monitor the comprehension. And so those are your basics, right? Basic things that you should be able to do. And what I'm going to show you in a moment is the skills that I've put together so that we can look at it at on a deeper level to really engage critical thinking. Okay? And so here we go. Let's take a look at that. So with this, I call it the Magnificent Seven strategies because making connections. We want to connect to experiences in our community, not just other books and media, which is what the basic level will have us do. But we want to connect to things in our community, asking questions. What cultural wisdom can I uncover? Imagine yourself as a character, inferring, reflect on your experience and everyone else. And so I'm going to go through these in details, but you do have this bookmark in the handout that I've given you. And so you can cut that out, put it on different paper, laminate it, just different things like that. So we're gonna go through a little bit of the different the in-depth. So making connections. So this is the basic questions that they say we'll ask. This reminds me of, it made me think of, I read another book where this is different from, and so that's your basic level questions. But when we're looking at it on a Afro literacy level, we want to say, what are some themes from African history, other folklore, contemporary issues? How do all of those come together? Because for us, our story comes before us and after us, so it's that whole time frame that we want to consider. We want to recognize how the cultural practices, ancestral wisdom. So we want to really pull out the family connection when we are reading. Again, not just to other media, but the family connection is going to be important. All right. And so we want to do cultural events, community gatherings. So we want to take it out from being a book into an experience. And so with that, we're going to say, questions at the bottom. How does this reflect my own culture? What values are highlighted in there? What can I learn from the character's journey? What are the themes that affect my community? How can I connect this to other African literature, right? Where our voices are amplified. And what are the teachings? What do I take away from it? How do I apply it to my life? So we're going to go ahead and move away from just the basic questions to the depth. How does this affect me and the community? And that's important with making connections. Going to asking questions. So the basic level that they do in like the public school level is, what is the author saying? I wonder what I would have done. What's the message? What are they talking about? It's just asking from the author's point of view, what did the author mean? And that can be challenging if we're reading something other than a folk tale, that might be outside of our experience, which is why sometimes on the test there are challenges. So when we're asking questions on the Afro literacy level, we want to say, what cultural wisdom can I uncover? Because if you can uncover the cultural wisdom, then you see what the author is trying to say. So we want to change that just a little bit. Before I start reading, what do I know about this topic in the author's background? As I read, how does the information connect to my own experiences and those of my community? After reading, how can I relate the author's ideas to the teachings of my ancestors? And what new understanding do I gain about myself and my cultural identity? So when we examine these questions, naturally, we will get to these questions. And even if we're reading something of a Eurocentral context, it will be great to have that juxtaposition, that contrast, to know that, okay, this book may not be really the book that I'm pulling wisdom from. And so that gives them that analytical idea. All right. And so here are the questions at the bottom that will go with these particular goals that we're trying to get to. So that's asking questions when we're reading. Asking questions when we're reading. The next thing is visualizing. When they're reading, it's great to be able to have that picture movie in your mind. What are you doing? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you feel? Are your basic questions, the five senses, right? And so when we are looking at it on a deeper level, we want to say, picture the story coming like a movie. Draw out the scenes as you are working. And then you can kind of incorporate those basic questions in there. But we want to talk about the details. What colors? We have colors that have an emotion. So we want to make sure we're looking at that. Shapes have particular meaning. Like in our tradition, circles are so important. Everybody's on the same everybody's kind of on the same level, and so we want to bring in those type of things. What do you see? How do the details make you feel? How does it connect to cultures and traditions? You want to use your senses. What do you imagine that this smells like? You want to think about the emotions. So the emotions are going to be connected to a lot of different things in the drawing. So that's visualizing on a deeper level. And with these, again, you can take them one at a time. I normally take them one at a time. Okay, we're going to start with this book. We're going to make connections. And once they master that, then boom, now we're going to ask questions. Or you can choose from any of them. Okay, so we're gonna move to inferring. And this is activating everybody as a genius at something. Everyone comes with prior knowledge. And so, again, this is back to your experiences, your cultural background. Okay, we don't exist on our own as readers, just readers. We come from a community, we come from a background of different things. And so, we want to make sure we're bringing that in there to read between the lines. We're going to look at clues, phrases, cultural references, and then some of the things that you can do is create activities where they can summarize different parts of the text and ask, okay, I have these parts. What does all this mean? And so if we're looking at this picture, we have them sitting down drumming. We're going to think about cultural context. Where have you seen this before? Where are they? Where could they be? What are they doing? What are they getting ready to do? What does your experience tell you what's going on? And this helps them to build their confidence as a reader and learn to look at what is not being said. And so young people do a very good job at that. And sometimes as they get older, though, because of the demands of schooling and demands of needing to have the right answer, sometimes they may lose that confidence. Okay, the next one is determining importance. So, with determining importance, you want to identify the main idea. What's the central message? You want to look at themes. You want to focus on major events. And again, those can all be like little timelines. And so, the basic questions will say the big idea is, the most important idea is, so far I've learned this is important. This information helped me use this in this way. It's similar. It changed my mind. Okay, so that's your basic things. Now, we want to dig deeper by coming up here and doing these activities, which will help them to get to these basic questions. But we also want to pull out other questions like, it relates to my culture and my beliefs in this way. Okay, that's a major part of it. Again, bringing in community, bringing in family values so that the ideas will stick and we can connect to these folk tales and contrast. Again, if we're reading something outside of our cultural perspective. So that's determining importance. Synthesizing, okay? Taking things from different places and coming up with new ideas. Sometimes it's a challenge for our young people. And so, basic questions I'll start here first is, do I compare and contrast what I'm reading with what I already know? So it's asking, do I do that naturally? Do I think of new ways to use this information? Do the connections I make help me make have new perspective, new ways of thinking about things? And so this is one where we do have to coach our scholars to become experts in, because they're gonna need to do it the higher they go, and especially at the collegiate level. And so what we want to do is, when we're reading again, and a lot of the strategies interconnect, right? It's just about being intentional to make learning come natural. And so again, when they're reading, go back to the community's tree teachers and traditions. How does it relate? That way they can problem solve. If there's a problem that a character is having in the story and they've already drawn from the community teaching, they can make suggestions. Well, the character can just do this because this is what we do in our community. So that's a very natural, again, natural connection. Of course, let them tell it in their own words. All right. Highlight oral tradition, you know, preserving history. What's this history and the wisdom? And sometimes you can get into a little oral session, a retelling, a mock storytelling session. Making predictions. I just talked about that, using the culture to make predictions and how they reflect cultural insights. So that's the biggest thing with synthesizing, drawing on your community knowledge, your personal knowledge, your family knowledge, taken from the story, and having ways to predict what's going to happen and what should happen. So here's some questions for that. How does what I'm reading relate to my own experiences? And what new ways can I apply this information? And am I making connections to understand my culture better? It's all about connecting to your culture so that learning isn't separate. It's integrated into your everyday life. And that's one of the most important things that I've discovered with learning and literacy. And next thing is monitoring and comprehension. There are a bunch of different strategies that you can use, worksheets and everything else. But one of the things, some of the things that we want to do to help young people monitor comprehension is understanding Ubuntu, the emphasis of community. Talk to other people about what you have learned. If you're not sure, y'all know sometimes how we don't know we know stuff until we start talking about it. Let the scholars do that in their learning. Again, emphasize oral traditions. So listening and retelling. I tell my middle scholars, we want to listen, we want to hold it, and we want to share it. So if we can do those three things, we'll become better at looking at oral tradition. And so always connection to culture, always connected to culture so that they can be in the story based on the culture that they have. Um, Reflect on it, think about it. What did they do? What should they have done? Was that a good choice? Was that based on character? And so, a lot of times now with my young ones, I do everything based on character so we can understand the culture in that. And then again, emotional part is so important to it. Find out if, when they're reading this and they don't understand, do they get scared? Talk about what that scare is and ways that they may need support. So that holistic part is so much a part of it. Just addressing that instead of just saying, well, you should know this. We went over this. Talk to them about their feelings. Teach them to ask for support, once they try to do the support themselves. And then just interconnectedness. Where can we connect this story as the stories get more complicated? That's going to be very important. So they say basic level, use text cues, retell, reread, look for patterns, adjust reading speed. We want to make sure that we are taking it to the holistic level so that these can be enhanced. We want to make sure that we do the holistic strategies that I just shared with you. Okay. And here are some things. Tell a story to someone else. Change your pace purposely. As a storyteller, when I'm practicing, I have to do some things slow, then fast, then slow, then fast. Let them really get into the oral tradition and connect to the story in that way. And so you should have um, increased comprehension in that manner if you use the holistic ways to support the scholar. So that is the Magnificent Seven Reading Strategies. Again, you have this bookmark. I would love to hear your journey with this, your feedback on this, questions that you may have about this. And let me know if it is working with your scholars anywhere that needs more clarification. And I would love, love, love to just hear your feedback on this journey. So now there are what I'm going to do now before I get into this is our supplemental stuff. I want to talk about some of the literacy activities that you can do based on grade level, which is why I definitely ask what the grade levels are, because I wanted to put together this list so that you can have some takeaways. There is some space on there's a chart, a matter of fact. There is a chart that was on your sheet. Let me try to go back where you can type in some of the activities that you would like to use. And so under the Magnificent Seven, here we go. So I'm going to go through now and I'm going to share some sample activities and you can type which ones are right if you printed this out. You can type which ones that you would like to or interested in doing, okay? Or have more questions about, because I would always love to hear your feedback. So let's start with pre-K and kindergarten. All right, so this is again, I have a cultural connection. This is on gratitude. If you want to spend some time with gratitude, there's a book, Thank You, Omu. And we can go over activities that I've done is the different ways to say thank you in different languages. I've connected it to good character skills. There's always a chance about to share family recipes here. And then the Story Scholar song, if I'm checking quick comprehension, I might say, who is the story about? That gets them to do the main characters. What is the problem? Conflict is very important. How do we solve them? And that could be prediction or story recall. And we finish, I say hooray, story scholars. And those are the three basic principles that's going to be asked for elementary school and middle school as far as what can you identify? Can you pull out the story elements? So they can tell you who was in it, what was the problem, how they solve it, and that's a basic. And of course, there's so many other things to add as we'll see when you get to the middle school level. But this is Thank You Almost. She makes this big soup, and everybody from the community is coming in to keep on getting the soup. And so it's a very great story. And at the end, she's like, I don't have any more soup. And at the end, everyone comes to bring her some food. And so that's beautiful discussion about community, about good character, and all of those things. So that's a great story to have for pre-K. The other one is Obatala's daughter. It's kind of a Yoruba story. And that's about friendship and good character. How do we choose friends? Again, it's talking about different things of good character, patience, really looking at people's true qualities. Um, and then it's also about listening to parents. And there are some good Yoruba words in there that can be used. And it connects to a song I have called Wa Iwapele, which will be on the YouTube page very soon. I've written it out, and it's just a song about good character. And so, questions you can ask is, do they know the Who song I just talked to you about? Can they define what being a good friend is? Can they talk to you about good character? How Kemi was not using good character when she didn't listen to her father. So that's a great story there. Then we have Shango's son. It's about good character and unique abilities. Again, there are some Yoruba greetings with the pronunciations in the back of the book. Again, you can have the good character discussion. Um, you can also compare and contrast Bi and Shango. How Bi and Shango, how they were using good characters. And there's questions at the end of that story. You can ask them, can they use the Yoruba words? Get them to a little bit of language. And, can they answer the questions in the back of the book? Just simple things to get them involved. And this is on top of the other strategies that we've already talked about, right? So you can use this book in so many different ways. Start with making connections, visualizations, going through all of those things, mapping out the story, then going into good character and answering the questions at the back of the book. Then you have Imani's Moon, my absolute one of my favorites, about self-confidence and resilience. Okay, so you can talk about these things: determination, good character skills, special talents, problem solving, and then there are so many different things. Again, good character, Imani's Moon, how do we overcome? Any challenges we have. And this one also has a podcast. You will have access to my database with a bunch of stories as well. And the podcast, I have this on a podcast that has additional activities. So this is one of the stories that keeps on giving. So Imani's Moon and Janae Brown Wood has a bunch of beautiful stories that I'm going through to do lesson plans for. Then you have ZZ, the copycat, where ZZ is copying everyone. He knows how to stop when it gets to mom and dad, but just self-awareness and knowing, I always say it's one thing to be invited to copy, but just to go and copycat someone, that might not be a lot of fun. So again, just going back to good character. Um, can they tell who's in the story, how they solve the problem? What's the difference between mocking someone and when they're invited to join in with the fun? And so this is all about individuality. And I would do this with the song, Look Who's Here, it's I. Look who's here. And they can introduce themselves. What can you do? And somebody will do a dance. We can do it too. And somebody will copy them. So just knowing the difference between when someone invites you and when you're inviting yourself to copy people, and that may not feel good. So ZZ the Copycat is a good song for that. I mean, a good book for that. So those are some simple ways that have interacted with books for the pre-K level. First to third grade. You have taken a deeper dive into novels. I'm going to show you the novel activities in a moment. They can build on the who. They can have a chance to talk about context skills, which we'll go over in the vocabulary section. Again, making predictions. We talked about all of those things. And so we are honoring folk tales, cultural stories, and Black authors. And so here's some ways I told you all about really, really getting into the book for when it's early elementary, they can write a letter to the main character, recreate the book cover, add a character, rewrite the story, and change how the character deals based on cultural connection. They can make an advertisement, do a making connections link. I used to have a challenge where I would do a link chain all across the classroom and see who had the most links. They can create a card for the character, create proverb lists that go along with the book, retell the story through a comic strip, create a map, outline the important places in the story, find a real life topic of interest that connects to the story. Create a newscast, create a word wall if vocabulary is what you're developing, and do a blog or a vlog where they can write reviews of the story. There's so many ways to connect, and this can be used. I can go to the library. One time I took out 50 books, and you can use these over and over again. And that's a great way for first through third graders to get connected. Fourth and fifth, you have same thing, context clues, different things like that. With them, you have some of the same activities, and I've added a few. They can start to keep a journal. They can assign a proverb to the story. Write a letter to the author, this time giving them a review of the book. Add a chapter. We talked about that. Create an opening song. Create a family tree for any of the characters. Create a visual version of the book, just all pictures. We say pictures worth 1,000 words. Let them create some pictures for the book. Choose the most important scenes. Create the proverb. Here's the journals for making connections. And I actually do have a journal I need to find and scan and share with everyone. They can create a story map into a Loom video. Have them do an oral production of it. And so those are all beautiful things that they can add. For middle school, you have same thing. Understanding and connecting to literature. You're going to deep dive into the Magnificent Seven. You can write a letter to the author asking them questions about background information. Let them actually mail it. Same thing. You can do the characters and create a fake book project. We've taken characters and we've given them a fake book page. I've got the template for that. They do have an Instagram page, different things like that. If you want them to do that level of connecting, what this person looked like. That's a lot of inferencing and a lot of creativity. They can write a playlist for the whole book. Create a timeline. Canva is great for different things like that. Again, the graphic novel, they can do a book trailer. Powtoon, Adobe Express, create questions, create their own quizzes, and different things like that. So that's wonderful for high school. And I have another list of high schools. So they, of course, discuss the elements and doing a book pitch. A book pitch is a very fun way to, they can take pictures that books that they like, and they can do a book pitch based on that. Also, what they can do is learn annotation with the making connections. So their annotation grows. We've done it either printing it, color coding it, Google, where you highlight and just hear my connections, hear my vocabulary words. And so you have all of those things to help you connect to that. So now, other things for high scholars that I want to share is this right here. This is another county that I worked in, and what I appreciated about this is this has so many different activities that you can do for reading, and it doesn't have to be silent reading, but this is a whole pack. Here's a reading excerpt bookmark, and this can be used at the middle school level as well. Favorite passages bookmark, um main character, how they handling it. So this is a packet full of activities that they can use. And there are also some questions I want to scroll down to. So you got all the ways you can go to the library and have your whole ELA course. So this is broken down into character questions, plot and conflict questions, point of view questions, language and style. Excuse me. So you can figure out as your scholar grows and needs to have a deeper level of analysis, you have this whole packet available to you. So again, your ELA class can be in the library a whole year and you will cover everything you need to cover. One of the things that you will get with this presentation as well is our database. I'm in the database all the time, as much as possible. giving you all books based on the different levels. So you have pre-K. I just gave you all the high school stuff, so it won't be too many high school books in here. You can just use the packet that I gave you. But in the different levels, you have the book here, you have a preview of the book, you have a lesson plan, you have additional resources and activities that you can do. So it's very rich. And you have a chance a lot of times to meet the author. And if there's an assessment here, multiple choice assessment that you can give. And there is also a chance, if you have beautiful projects, let's put them, join the conversation. Let's see your project. So you have access to this. I'm constantly putting books in there. And again, this is only one section, reading fiction. We'll have different sections for reading nonfiction and all of those things that you can have access to. And so, again, if you have questions about anything, please let me know. One of the final sources that we have is books that I've used personally that may not be in the database yet. You can go and get some of these books, Circle Unbroken. I'm constantly going in here as well and doing books that I've used in live sessions. And it's by purpose and it tells you the culture. So feel free to bookmark this as well, and I will continually add to that. So you have a list of resources there. And this is my podcast. I'm also podcasting books. So scholars can have the chance to listen to the stories. And there are activities associated with this. So reading fiction, we've got a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. And so, again, before we close out, um, let me go back one more time because it doesn't pop out for me and stay out. Okay, so on your sheet, your handout sheet that you would get here, at the bottom, these 10 tips for encouraging reading motivation based on our philosophy. Here, opportunities to really connect to culture, storytelling sessions, real life heroes, making reading social, using links to life, celebrate achievements, and create a reading ritual. We'll do this in the summer, real intensely in the break. We'll do a little bit here, during our breaks. We'll invite people over for different things. And so you have that, the top 10 ways to encourage reading motivation. So that is there. And 10 tips for having a home reading culture. So sharing family stories is so very, very important. Reading together, inviting elders to speak. We did that one time in a class. Oh, so phenomenal. And then model. I know we're so busy. I try to read 5 to 10 pages a day. Go to the African festivals, connect them to a book, and create story-based activities, which I've shown you some in a family reading journal. So on the bottom as well, you have all the ways to stay connected to the things that I'm sharing with you. You also have the QR codes. You have the podcast, and you also have the QR codes to visit the website, sign up for the next Afro Literacy workshop because I'm going to be giving richness. You all can build your own system. I'm going to be one-on-one curriculum call if you want to do something that's specific to your organization. The newsletter also always giving out free tidbits. Stay connected on Facebook. I'll be sharing some things there. And then the key for the YouTube channel. So I hope this was helpful. Please stay connected. I would love to hear from you, love to hear your questions, love to hear about your journey, your Afro literacy journey. So thank you so much, Odabo. Have a wonderful literacy journey year.